Thank you. Thank you. Have you ever noticed that what sometimes you think are going to be some of your great days don't actually feel that way as they're evolving? I noticed on some of the big occasions in my life, like my wedding, the births of my children, the big graduations, that I get so caught up in thoughts about the planning and how things should go and how they need to go, and I overthink them and overplan them and just generally worry until at the moment that the things happen, I've forgotten to relax and enjoy the moment. And I guess that's just because I'm kind of the nervous type. I remember a really good example in high school. Was a member of our high school's basketball team, and it was a really good basketball team. In fact, we went to the state championship game of the Illinois state tournament. But in keeping with my nervous disposition, my teammates had nicknamed me Shaky, and it was a name I deserved well. I loved playing basketball, I loved being a part of the team, but the games themselves just made me a nervous mess. And I would go into the games and just start to lose control. So with such a disposition, as you can imagine, I was not a star of the team. In fact, I was a reserve, and I got a fair amount of playing time, but just enough to keep my nerves, finely tuned. I remember, for example, that state championship game. That was fertile ground for nervousness. It was in the biggest stadium that we had ever been around, the stadium at the University of Illinois. It held about 15,000 people. And there was television cameras. And then there was the coach's pregame speech about, this is the biggest game of your life. And then running out onto the floor with those 15,000 people yelling and cheering. And I was just ready to run to my familiar, comfortable place on the bench and just stay there if I could. But what typically happened was some of the big guys on the team would get into foul trouble right before the end of the first half or the end of the game, and I would need to go in. And so, as it would happen in this case, I was just hoping that our kind of best player, Ron, would not get into foul trouble. He was the strong, quickest guy on our team of the big men, but he was assigned to guard the guy who was like the LeBron James of Illinois that year, named Levi. And Levi was big and strong and quick and just had the whole package. And if I had to go into him, I would be matching that with thin and slow and nervous. And it would not be a fair matchup. So as things played out, it was typical. Ron got his third foul right before the end of the first half, and I had to go into the game. Coach said, go guard Levi, nightmare come true. So I go into the game, and I find Levi. I get in position to guard him. Just for a second, I look left to find out where the ball is, and see it get thrown in bounds, turn back, and no more Levi. He's already, dashed off someplace, and I can't even find him. Well, fortunately, it was just a short time until halftime, so minimal damage was going to be done. But the only thing as scary as guarding Levi was if I had to shoot a free throw. And for some ridiculous reason, someone fouled me, and I had to go to the free throw line. So play stops, all 15,000 set of eyes are on me in my nervous glory. And I'm trying to hold the ball, which seems like it's trying to escape from me the way it feels, and looking up at the rim, which seems like it's moving also, and trying to shoot this and just thinking, Randy, just please don't shoot an air ball, which is the ultimate embarrassment. So I took the shot. I missed the shot, but it wasn't an air ball, so it felt like a small victory. And I was able to retreat to the locker room shortly thereafter with the team. And we actually had a 3-point lead, so things weren't so bad. After halftime, I just willed my teammates not to get into any more foul trouble. And they didn't, and it was great. So I was happy to be on the bench, and it was a great game, very close, back and forth. It was actually won at the very last second with a buzzer beater shot by the other team. So, yeah, right. Yeah. So We found out though that the worst thing in the world isn't losing a championship game, high caliber game by 1 point. In fact, our town treated us to a hero's welcome parade. There was fire engines waiting for us at the city limits that we got to jump on top of and ride into town, police escorts, sirens blaring, through the middle of town where people were on each side of the street clapping and waving to us. And they led us back to our high school gym where there was this big pep assembly for us. And it was as crowded as I'd ever seen the gym. All the seats were full and people were standing on the basketball court, all just, to welcome us back home. They were so proud of us. And in the weeks and months that followed, people would come up to me and say, and ask me, what was it like to play in that big game on that huge stage? And it's funny that after the fact, I never thought so much about the nerves and the butterflies and the anxieties. I just put that whole day into that category of one of the best days ever.